Well, we've got this case out of Brazil, and the case from Colorado is exactly why something like the case in Brazil might come about. Because imagine if you've got teachers, you've got this 50-year-old lesbian teacher trying to make your kid kiss another kid of the same sex in these skits as she's telling them about how she's suicidal, how she's a lesbian, how she got a sperm donor, how all of these insane things. Again, this is a 50-year-old woman essentially preying on, potentially grooming these children. I mean, there's no other way to read these efforts. These are for her gratification. And again, thankfully she's fired. Hopefully she is prosecuted. And you would think, okay, I'm sick of this, and I don't see any way to avoid that with any of the schools in my area. I better homeschool my kids. Well, if you do that in Brazil, apparently, you go to jail because you failed to include programs on gender and sex education and tolerance and diversity. Absolutely crazy story out of Brazil. And that's what...
Yes, homeschools are intentionally trying to avoid gender and sex education and
that is why,
tolerance and diversity.
That is why under a socialist government in Brazil, they are trying to, they are prosecuting parents for homeschooling their kids and for avoiding that.
There are similar stories in Germany as well. Germany's been sort of fighting against the right to homeschool for quite a while now. I think that here in America, we kind of take for granted that it's something that you should be able to do because they're your kids, and we kind of understand the relationship.
I will say the fight against that. I mean, there's even conservative circles who are kind of opposed to it in principle. Unfortunately, allegedly conservative circles. I've seen pushback against it from a variety of angles, but there's a better understanding of the right to not go to school, so to speak, and be educated at home. There's a better understanding of that
I think here in the United States we're more likely to sort of like try to put up somewhat arbitrary barriers to it.
Yes.
The parents have to have this much education level. We have to report in with the state. Some of that stuff. Whereas like in Germany and in increasingly in countries like Brazil, you have more of at least a social acceptability to the argument that no, you shouldn't be able to homeschool at all.
Yeah.
That's been pushed. But this particular case, I think, is especially interesting here in Brazil. And the ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom, has been attempting to assist with this family, but obviously it's not going in the right direction at the moment. But what's interesting about it is the fact that it's not just the fact that they were homeschooling, right? But also that there was an intellectual neglect. That's the phrase actually used by this court. I mean, that kind of is a little disturbing to the conscience. And it's not like these kids were unable to read or something. Like they were found functionally illiterate. And maybe that's what you think when you hear intellectual neglect.
Yeah. You're not raising your kids to be functional in society type of thing on the level of you have to read a road sign. You have to learn how to drive properly. You have to, you have to understand how to, how to open a bank account or something like that. Like that's what you might think with the phrase intellectual neglect.
Yeah.
I don't like often calling things Orwellian just by nature, but it has that Orwellian sort of sound to it. This dystopian intellectual neglect, and it means whatever ideological thing you want it to mean.
Yes. And then the court also, and this is one of the things that I found amusing, but only like in a dark way.
Yeah.
The court concluded that these two girls, they're 15 and 11, they didn't like trap or folk music because their homeschool education had failed to educate them in cultural diversity. Never mind, they speak multiple languages and are both accomplished pianists.
They're not cultured enough because they don't have enough of an appreciation for anything that's that's vulgar or low, or that they find vulgar or low. It's literally a matter of it's taking something that's really more a matter of taste. And in my opinion, it would be a matter of good taste versus bad taste, and giving it an ideological component. And frankly, and I'll get a little spicy here about left-wing ideology, this is really what most left-wing ideology boils down to. It's ugliness and vulgarity and
hatred of the refined.
Hatred of anything that's beautiful, that's good. Yeah. And it often comes down to, and again, as Catholics, physical appearance is not a moral thing necessarily in this way. We are called to look past that as Catholics. But in left-wing ideology, there really does come down to often just a hatred of anyone who's beautiful, anyone who's good-looking, and idealizing something that is ugly. And that's why you see, again, preponderance of tattoos, of piercings, of things like that. Something that maybe even the Catholic Church has allowed certain things like when you're a sailor, you might be able to. It's permissible to get a tattoo. A sailor or a soldier, the Catholic Church has sometimes said, okay, well maybe that's okay. This Catholic Church doesn't condemn earrings or anything like that, but the Catholic Church has traditionally said you shouldn't be mutilating your body in these excessive ways, because that your body is something that's supposed to be respected as as God's creation.
The vessel of the Holy Spirit.
Yes,
right?
and whereas leftist ideology elevates the ugly and the profane and the vulgar to being an actual inherent good in and of itself for those qualities, as opposed to something that you may just look past when you're a Catholic to say, well, let's get to the heart of the matter, sort of thing. And so this is clearly what's going on here, is that diversity means, you can't only like classical music. You have to like vulgar trap music or pop music and stuff like that. And
because refinement is a type of civility.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so what you see on the individual level, you also see on the broad level. And that's what you're getting at here, Jake. So when you have like the sort of leftist rejection of the so-called West of Christendom, it's the sort of elevated culture. Maybe some people even hate that term. But, it is like high culture, which is the thing that is hated most.
Yeah. Well, and this is how you get countries like Japan having this incredible appreciation for classical music, Western classical music.
Yep.
They honor it in incredible ways. And then in the West, you have people who are like Mozart. Mozart's white supremacy music.
Yes.
We can't have that.
Right.
It's just it's completely
This cult's that way.
Yes, it makes no sense. So here in Brazil, you've just got this ideological attack on homeschooling because of this, again, intellectual neglect, as the way they're phrasing it, and it's completely in opposition to what the Catholic Church says, which is that as a parent, you are the ones who are most responsible for educating your children.